Hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show.
Yo,
Whoa.
how we doing, fellas?
Let's get it.
The Week 4 NFL show. So we've learned a lot about these teams so far. We're going to do a power rankings Week 5 next week. Going to come in hot with that. But, still some things to be decided. Like, the Dolphins are not the best team in the NFL, even though they're number 1 in all the power rankings right now. But we all know they're really not the best team in the NFL. First game on the slate here is the Buffalo Bills, traveling to Baltimore, -3.5. The total is 51.5. Nickson is a Ravens fan, so he's going to go first.
All right, so this game is very interesting because we know how the Bills game went with the Dolphins, and they pretty much dominated the game statistically, time of possession wise. They ran the ball pretty effectively, and it just so happens that the Dolphins seem to pull it out. But I still think that this is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a high scoring game. Both teams are going to go over the 20s. Ravens defense has yet to look good. The Buffalo Bills defense is super depleted still. A lot of secondary issues. So I see this being a very, very high scoring game. Definitely going to take the over on this one. I think that's almost a lock guarantee. And then I didn't put the Bills on my card just because I wanted to avoid it. But if I did have to pick someone, I would pick the Bills to edge it out. I think it's going to be a really close game though.
Made a lot of fair points there, Nickson. Like a lot of fair points. I almost agree with everything you said. It is a really interesting game, especially since the two kind of interesting games that happened last week. The Ravens defense hasn't looked good, you're right. But also Mac Jones is kind of terrible in my opinion. I went off about that last week. But I think the thing with the Bills, with their game last week and that loss, came down to a lack of execution. We saw Josh Allen, my fantasy quarterback, slung it around 400 yards or something, but he threw 63 passes, and there was multiple opportunities that he kind of let slip away from him. Like, for example, there was an end zone throw that he had a guy wide open in the flat, no tip, no nothing, just straight up threw it at his feet. Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, was livid with the end of the last game. It's hard because I really do like the Ravens, but I think the Bills are just overall the better team, so I am going to take Bills -3.5, but I'm not putting my chips on it to be a shootout, because when we all think that, that's when it tends to not happen. And then, on the contrary, the shootout games end up being like the Browns and the Jets or something, which did happen. But yeah, I'm only going to go with Bills -3.5 here. I think they win this game by a touchdown, but
Honestly, I wouldn't touch this game. I feel like versus the Ravens, this is going to be a high-scoring game. I would take the over. If I had to take anything, I would go with the over.
I do agree with you. Sometimes the games that we think are going to be the big shootout ones, they're actually not. And it's Joe Flacco throwing for 500 yards, not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. But both these teams are second in their division. They need to win the game. They're both 2-1. The Ravens' only loss came against the Dolphins, who bet the Bills last week. So I actually like the Ravens in this one, and I like them +3.5. I think they outclassed the Patriots last week. Lamar Jackson is in MVP form. Every game he plays, he's making a statement, and he's doing it with weapons that no one really thought he could do it with. Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews is a top caliber tight end, but he's using them and they're getting him involved, and that's really important for this Ravens team. Also, the run game, they could get a boost this week with J.K. Dobbins coming back, so that'd be a big element and a big swing in this game. For me personally, I think once you get that run game going with the Ravens, that's their identity. Getting Dobbins back is a big, big bonus to this team. The Bills are banged up after that loss, lads. I mean, that game had it all. It had butt punts, it had Tyreek going off places, it had Waddle doing it. It was jam-packed with action. Both teams are in the top 5 offense in the NFL. So I like the over in this one because I think it's going to be explosive. It's going to be full of action. Yes, the Bills defense is very good, but the only way that this Ravens team is going to have any sort of chance is to go and attack, because they can't rest on their defense to win it for them. So I like the Ravens +3.5, and I like the over in this one.
That J.K. Dobbins coming back is going to be really big.
I really wanted to just not pick a side and take either the over or the under, but I really am just afraid of totals in the 50s. This one, I really is just going back and forth. I think I'm going to take the Bills, though, because I think that they're hungry, and I think that they need this win, and I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back games all year. 3.5 is a little bit more than I want to do, but I think it'll be more than that. Probably a touchdown, like Sam said. You know, the Ravens' defense isn't as good as it always is, and I think that this could be an over game, but I'm not going to touch that, so just the Bills here. Game 2 on the slate. Broncos-Raiders. The Raiders are the only 0-3 team in the NFL as we stand today. The total is 44.5. The Raiders are -1.5. It's in Las Vegas.
Let's not deceive ourselves. Let's just be real here. This is ugly. If this is on and it's not on Red Zone, you're not watching it, right? But this is a must-win game for the Raiders, like Tommy said. They're 0-3. They're bottom of the AFC West, which is one of the most competitive divisions in football. This team is learning what their identity is, and it's definitely not their run game. Josh Jacobs is not present in any of these games. You're going through the air, but you're not even getting Devontae Adams involved. The #1 wide receiver in football last week had 36 yards receiving. That's simply not good enough. I get he might be double man, but you've got to find a way of getting him the ball. The Rams can do it with Cooper Kupp. You need to do it with Devontae Adams. It's simply not good enough. That's the issue with this team. They can't seem to find out what's working for them, and they need to find it out quick because the Chiefs are coming next week, and this team could potentially go 0-5 if they lose this week because I don't fancy them against the Chiefs. Russell Wilson, I've been so unimpressed with what I've seen from this Broncos team. Defense is carrying them on their back. They need to get their stuff together in order to try and compete in the AFC West. But honestly, I like the Raiders in this one, purely down to the fact that they're home. They need to win. They need to make a statement. You have a new offensive coordinator, you have a new defensive coordinator, and you have a new head coach. These guys all need to prove that they have a spot in this franchise, and going 0-4 or 0-5 is not the way to do it. I think the team talks, the practice sessions are going to be immense this week in Raiders camp. I like them in this one. That's where I'm at, lads. Take it away.
Both of these offenses haven't been able to figure it out for shit so far. They've both looked awful. They have weapons, they have talent, but they just it seems like they can't do anything. I'm gonna go with the Raiders. Raiders -1.5. Like you said, it is a must-win game for them. Like, this is the definition of a must-win game. And I said it last week. Josh McDaniels he's not that guy, and he hasn't shown that he's even close to being that guy yet. I think they were better off with Rich Bisaccia, whatever he was last year. They looked like they had a lot more fire under him and a better roster this year. They just looked depleted, like they suck. Couldn't execute last week against Tennessee. We saw all of that. They got close, but that doesn't matter in the National Football League. Gonna go Raiders -1.5. I think they can pull one out.
With the Broncos, last week we saw them play probably the worst primetime game I've ever seen in my very young life. You know, before the year, we talked about both of these quarterbacks being top 10s in the NFL. And so far into the season, they both look out of sorts. I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know if it's, adjusting to the new rosters. Both of them have new receivers and such. So I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go Raiders here. Because I think it's just a must-win for them. They really need to have that fire under their belly. I feel like they're going to force feed Devontae the ball and really dominate the game, just because that's what they need to do to win. And with the Broncos, like I said last week, their offense looked absolutely abysmal. So I have the Raiders covering here, and I also have the under as well.
I'm gonna take the Broncos, and I'm gonna tell you why. I got Russell Wilson as my fantasy quarterback. He is bound to go up from here. You can't get much worse than the Broncos offense has been doing in the recent games. There's no way that the Raiders put up that many points versus the Broncos. The Broncos have had teams score 9, 11 points versus the 49ers. And the 49ers is a very good offense, to say the least. They had certain moments where they looked like they were going to drive the ball down the field, but somehow, some way, the Broncos defense came through. Like, they've got it going, but it's just certain things like drop passes. Like, Judy dropped a pass that probably I could have caught. Anybody in this Zoom could have caught that ball that Russell Wilson passed to Jerry Judy. He just dropped it completely. I don't know why. Things like that, at some point, it's just those are going to go the Broncos' way. So I think the Broncos will take this one.
You think the Broncos can keep up with the Raiders with the offense?
They're going to keep up with the Raiders for sure.
You think?
Yes, just because their defense is going to keep them. It's not because they're offensively going to keep up with the Raiders, but their defense is going to keep them.
Their defense hasn't really played anyone that has the firepower that the Raiders, even though we haven't seen it, but I think it's going to come together this week for the Raiders, and we're going to see what's going to lie ahead for them, because they played the 49ers who has a good, okay offense, good on paper, but
they locked down Debo. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's really all you really have to do, to be honest, with the Niners. And then they let Geno have the game of his life. They haven't seen anything like Devontae, Waller, Renfro, and Derek Carr. They haven't seen anything like it. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that.
That first game of the season, nothing prepares you for that. It's always going to be first game jitters, no matter how much you practice. I feel like.
Yeah, but man, come on! It's like we're going into week 4 now. First game jitters. It's
Yeah,
week 4.
No, but look at them now. Look at them. That explains.
Look at them now.
Smith.
Like I've seen nothing from them though, man. I've seen nothing.
From that point
nothing
on, they've
convincing.
been exceptional.
I gave the Cardinals credit for beating them in week 2, and last week told me what it needed to tell me about the or about the Raiders was that wasn't the Cardinals being good. That was the Raiders being bad.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
because
saying. The Raiders aren't a crazy team to shut down. I feel like, despite the stars that they have,
you used the Broncos and exceptional in the same sentence, did you?
the Broncos defense, yeah.
Okay, defense. Okay, right. I mean, you had the opportunity to say Broncos country, let's ride for your pick, and you didn't take it. So, a bit disappointed with that sign. I mean, that should be better, Cam. Come on now, come on. But no, fair enough. I get you. Tommy, what are you saying?
So, as everybody said, this is a must-win game for the Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders here. I'm also going to take the under 44.5. The under's 3-0 in the Broncos 3 games of the year. Denver's defense is one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. Second in points allowed, third in total yards allowed, and 6th in yards per play. So their defense is legit. Their offense is really bad. As I predicted, Russ is not as good as everybody thought. And the Raiders have 5 turnovers in the 3 games they've played. So I think the under is really the moneymaker here. I'm going to take the Raiders because they have to win. I also just don't think the Broncos are that good. Like, despite the Raiders being 0-3, I still think they're better than the Broncos. Broncos should have lost to the Texans. And then, I mean, this game with the Niners, like everybody said, it was a close one and could have gone either way. I also don't really think the Niners are as good as, like Tony said, it was a Super Bowl pick. I think that this is going to be a boring game. I think it's going to be in the probably 17 to 14 type range, and it's going to be easy under and Raiders -1.5. Game 3 on the slate here. The rematch of the Super Bowl 2 years ago. First time these teams have played since then. The Chiefs are -2.5 at the Bucs. 44 or 45.5 is the total.
this game, you look at it and you look Chiefs-Bucs, that's 2 powerhouses from the last 3 years. It's a Super Bowl matchup. They both played like shit last week. And they're both coming off losses, which neither of these guys are used to doing. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Neither of these offenses, neither of these defenses are used to coming into big games off of losses. And that's what makes it interesting because they're both going to probably be at their best. And so I'm going to lead this off by going with the first half under 23.5. The Bucs have an identity right now, and it is solely defense. That is all it is, because you saw it the first couple of games, like, oh, maybe they're just trying to get the offense going, whatever. And they came in and played Green Bay. And even though they couldn't score, they held Green Bay to 14 points, which is just miraculous. At the same time, both the offenses do have a lot of capability. Tom Brady doesn't look, I mean, yes, he's Tom Brady. We all can say that. But, I mean, it's just a lot of, like, 5-yard outs, 10-yard slants, whatever.
It might be time to say that he's not Tom Brady anymore. Like, he is.
I mean, it doesn't look like it.
But this Tom Brady might not be that Tom Brady anymore.
Yeah, like, I won't judge anyone for saying it because I watched that Packers game last week, and it was just...
It was a horror show.
Yeah, it was just like check downs, out routes, just like short passes all over the place. And obviously that's not going to win against a good team like Green Bay. And then the Chiefs are coming off a loss to the Colts, who looked like they sucked. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think this might come down to who wants it more and who has more talent, honestly. And right now, I think the Chiefs have more talent, despite whoever they lost over the offseason. 2.5, that's basically a pick 'em. I don't think it's going to be a 2-point game. So I'm going with Chiefs, and then that first half under 23.5. I think it might start off slow, but as they kind of start to figure each other out throughout the game, it's going to get it could get ramped up offensively.
I have the Chiefs covering the spread, and I also have the overall game under. So the reason why is because the Bucs are super injured on offense. A lot of their weapons are injured or out, and I also think that is what made Brady do what he did last week. A lot of check downs, not trusting anyone to get down the field. That Bucs defense is really something serious. I know we said Todd Bowles likes to focus a lot on his defense, and it shows. They really execute at a high level. They have great linebacker play. Their safeties are pretty good. So I think that the Chiefs are going to end up winning, but it's not going to be a super high scoring game. And because Brady doesn't have his weapons, he doesn't have his Julio, Godwin's on the report. I think Mike Evans is on the injury report this week too. A lot of people didn't practice. I think it's going to be a overall under, and I have the Chiefs winning it.
Nickson, you're far too kind. You're far too kind to Brady and this offense. Man, I watched the Cowboys week 1 play the Bucs, and I have never been more unimpressed by an offense. Coming into the season, Bucs are Super Bowl favorites to represent the NFC. I was so disappointed. Julio Jones, yeah, they used him a bit. Mike Evans, it took like the third quarter for him to get a touchdown against the Cowboys, who looked horrendous offensively, and we just kept giving them the ball back. Unfortunately for us, our offense couldn't get it going. Our defense did try hold out there, but even when Brady has had the weapons, like we've all said, he's not looked like the same Tom Brady. I've been really unimpressed with what I've seen from him and this Bucs team. And I think, like Sam was saying, Todd Bowles, you can see that defensive kind of aspect leaking into this team. They used to be an offensive team, and now I'd argue that they're more of a defensive team. And it's not just Brady is nearly reliant on the defense to make them win games and just trying to get enough points on the board. I mean, when Cole Beasley's your wide receiver 1, you're in trouble. No disrespect to Cole, but I mean, he's not wide receiver 1. He's a slot receiver. He's your wide receiver 2 or 3 guy, not your main guy, and especially not when he's a free agent just coming off a practice squad. So look, Brady and Mahomes, as it stands, Brady has 3 victories, Mahomes has 2. Mahomes is going to want this because for the rest of his career, he's going to be compared to the GOAT. And that's how it's going to be. He's always going to be compared to the GOAT. And it's going to be, well, what were their head-to-head matchups? Yes, Brady has, of course, more Super Bowls. But the head-to-heads are going to be just as important. I think mentally, Mahomes is still he's still hurting after that Super Bowl loss. And I will credit the Colts last week. Yes, they stopped the Chiefs to 58 yards total rushing. The Chiefs were horrendous. They shot themselves in the foot, and it was special teams. I think we underestimated how important Harrison Butker is to his team. The Chiefs wouldn't take field goals. Instead, they went for a 4th down. Sometimes they weren't converting. And then you have a muff punt by Sky Moore, which just completely flips the game on its head. Travis Kelce with a drop touchdown pass. They just weren't clicking. And I think going into this game, they had it in their heads like, Grant, Indianapolis are coming up. The Jags shut them out. We're going to put on a show. And in fairness to the Colts, they put on a display, and they were the better team. But this Bucs team looks lethargic. I'm not seeing any sort of energy from them. Chiefs win it -2.5. I like it. I just haven't seen enough offensively from either teams to pick the over or under yet. So that's where I'm at.
This is also going to be a giant Chris Collinsworth, can't contain his excitement game.
Now here's a guy
about Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. This is classic Tom Brady right here. Everyone thought he was done, but this is what we always see.
How many times are you going to say, what's the over-under on? Now here's a guy. I'm going to say about 6 every time.
3.5, and then another 2.5 on how many times he overemphasizes Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
There's a gambling rule that we all know. You never bet against LeBron, never bet against Brady. I'm going to sit this one out. I agreed with Sam with a lot of stuff he said, so I will take the under first half. But other than that, I would not touch this game. I'm not gambling against Brady.
Listen, man.
Welcome to the game.
He's depressed. You don't know if his wife is coming back. He
takes every Wednesday off practice as well.
Yeah, to go to damn marriage counseling. This is not the same Tom Brady, bro. This is not him.
Him coming back this year was probably the smart choice, just because last year he was at an MVP level. So we didn't know that this Tom Brady existed, really. And he's been playing without Mike Evans for the last 2 weeks. Mike Evans is playing this week. Scott alluded to my sneaky pick of the week here. I'm going to be taking Cole Beasley anytime touchdown this week. 100% chance it's plus money, but the odds aren't out yet. I'm also going to be taking the Chiefs -2.5 because I think that the Chiefs are the better team in this matchup. I think that the Chiefs are still a little bit sad about the Super Bowl, like Scott said. They haven't played this team since, and I think Mahomes just specifically wants to beat Tom Brady. But I really like Cole Beasley anytime touchdown this week. I really did not know that he was on the team until I was watching the game last week, but I think that he's going to score because he is one of, if not the best, slot wide receiver of all time. So
I agree with that.
I like that one there, and this one's going to be a good game. I'm excited to watch it, and I just don't think that the Bucs are as good as they could be right now, but I don't think that we should count them out yet. Still think they're going to be very good and be playing late in the year. So I like the Chiefs here. Cole Beasley touchdown. All right, well, it's time for the best part of the show, the locks of the week. We pick a game that's not on the 3-game slate that we just did, that we think is a lock and we think is going to make you money. So I'll just start here. I was hoping that, I didn't have to do this to Scott because I love him and I care about him, but I'm taking the Commanders +3 against the Dallas Cowboys.
You are messing.
No way.
You're messing with me.
I just think this is the easiest line of the week. Everybody's on the Cowboys. I don't remember exactly what the number was, but the money is all Cowboys. Bets are all Cowboys. So I think that this is Commanders easy. I think that the Commanders are better than people think. The score doesn't reflect how close the game was last week against the Eagles. Second half, Eagles kind of blew it open, but first half was close. I think that the Commanders are good. I think that their defense is getting better. And I think that Carson Wentz has to win this game or else he might be on the hot seat of getting benched. And I love the receivers for Washington. I think that Scary Terry, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, that might be the three best receiver trio in the NFL.
Yo.
Carson Wentz just needs to get them the ball. And their offensive line is really bad. But DeMarcus Lawrence is hurt. He might not play this week. So I think that this is going to be a close game. And we all need to remember that Cooper Rush is 3-0 as a starter, which basically means he's not going to go 4-0 as a starter. So the Cowboys are due to lose.
Big time rush, man. You never know.
People are coming off, off the Cowboys win. It was a primetime win. Classic Cowboys. Nobody gives a fuck about this game, but we're going to put it on national TV because Jerry Jones has to have 5 a year.
It's a divisional matchup.
There we go.
Those teams both suck. Daniel Jones won't be a starting quarterback next year, and neither will Cooper Rush. I think that the Cowboys are overrated, and I think that the Commanders are underrated. So my lock of the week, Commanders +3.
The Cowboys were never overrated. The Cowboys were shit on a lot.
Thank you.
I think that
I'm not a Cowboys fan, but and I'm not only doing this for the sake of Dak, that's not true. They're not overrated.
After the Dak injury, they were their odds went way down, obviously, and then Cooper Rush isn't good. Then he's played 2 games. He's won 2 games. So people are like, they might actually not be that bad. The division's really bad. The Commanders look like they might not be good.
It took the Commanders 45 minutes of football to get a single yard last week.
So
I think that's where this line comes from.
I think that the line is indicative of the Cowboys playing good last week and the Commanders playing bad last week. And I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. And I think that Scott's really horny right now.
Oh. Fellas, you mind if I take the floor on this one?
Go ahead.
Scott was really sad for a minute there because Dak got hurt. But then he's like, Cooper Rush actually might be good. And he's a little excited now. But this is the week where he realizes the Cowboys are going to be really bad this year.
Is it the week? Right.
Do that to him. But the Cowboys are going to finish 4th in the division this week.
Got my cowboy hat out. Are you done?
Yeah,
on us? Yeah, you done hating on us?
Go ahead.
Damn, that was harsh. My God. Okay.
I didn't know you were
taking
Cowboys. I didn't know you were taking.
Oh, yeah. I'll just say Cowboys -3, lock of the week. Lock it in, folks. That's where it's at. Okay. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I believe we have the #1 defense in the league. We're first in sacks. Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year, without a doubt, in my opinion already from what we've seen, barring any injuries. Dan Quinn came in and he has this kind of structure that he's put on this defense. We were not good a few years ago on defense. And I said at the start of this year, this is a Cowboys team that used to be known for its offense. It's going to be known for its defense. Yes, when Dak Prescott went down, I was down in the dumps. I did think our season was probably not over, but it wasn't looking good, especially with our upcoming schedule. But we go out there last week, and boy, did we look good against those New York Giants. I'm very impressed with what I've seen.
The Giants suck.
The Giants suck. Giants were undefeated in that game. Let's not forget that, okay? Right? Giants undefeated. We have our backup quarterback. You've no Michael Gallup as well. So Noah Brown, and you've no Dalton Schultz. And the run game looked fantastic. Hello, Zeke. Do you want to get a touchdown? Yeah, you do. Tony Pollard, why don't you rip off a 50-yard run as well? We look good. The run game's in motion. The run game is the identity of this offense when Dak is not in it. So looking at this Commanders team, like Sam said, they were shut out for 3 quarters against the Eagles. And this Dallas defense is better than that Eagles defense, in my opinion. So I think they're going to punish the Eagles. They scored 8 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. Parsons on Carson Wentz. That's a horror show waiting to happen. I'm just telling you now, you're going to see it all over. That is going to be like a disgraceful. Like, there might need to be like 18s plus have to watch that game because it's going to be so physical. He's going to go at him. Tommy, you spewed nonsense on my Cowboys there. I'm not having it. Respect us. We are back. Cooper Rush is back. Cowboys -3. We are at home as well. Don't disrespect my Cowboys again. That's where it's at.
Scott, that was just
Scott,
incredible.
I can't wait to clip that and send it to Freezing Cold Takes next week.
Yeah, that could go one of 2 ways, and it's either really good or really bad.
Name and shame me next week if it goes wrong, but look, I'm passionate. I don't know if this is vodka or water I'm drinking, but we'll find out.
I'm gonna give the real lock of the week here, which is basically free money, and it is drumroll. Chicago Bears +3.5 against the New York Giants. based on, I don't know who I was defending there. I don't know where that argument ended. I don't know even how it started, but the Giants aren't that good. Brian Daboll could be as great of a coach as he is, but let's face it, dude, you don't have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs anymore. You have Daniel Jones and not even Sterling Shepard anymore and Saquon. So if the Bears can contain that run game, which they did a pretty decent job of doing last week, I think they're going to be fine. And I'll say it right here. I'll be the first one to say it. Neither of our wins have been pretty. Like, at all. All these posts are flying around, let's go have more receiving yards than the Bears in total. You know what? We're 2-1. We're winning football games. And that's what matters in the National Football League. And I'm tired of people on Twitter saying, oh, well, did the Bears really win because Justin Fields didn't play well? Yeah, they did win. We scored more points than the other team. This is the National Football League. Wins are what matter, okay? And the Bears are going to win this game this week. And if they don't, it's going to be one of those stupid fucking games where they shoot themselves in the foot and then lose by a field goal. So 3.5 is free money.
My lock of the week, I don't know what is going on in Vegas, or if like Matthew Stafford got shot or some shit, but for some reason the Niners line is -1.5 versus the Rams. I don't know why. So I'm gonna easily take the Rams versus the Niners at -1.5. The Niners look terrible versus the Broncos, and the Rams are not the Broncos by any means. They will put up points versus the Niners. I'm big on Broncos defense. So I don't know if the Rams defense is as equal as the Broncos, but I feel like they will do a decent job of keeping the Rams in a bubble and not outscoring them on offense. I don't think the Niners are going to keep up. So -1.5 Niners, or -1.5 Rams, and that's the lock of the week.
Going to be Dolphins versus the Bengals. Now, my other lock for this game actually is Tyreek Hill touchdown. I don't know if you saw the interview where he was like, I owe Eli Apple one. I think he's going to get force fed a little bit by Tua. So yeah, those are my two locks for the week.
Thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe, please. Thank you guys for coming on, and let's enjoy this week.